Okay, Peter Hadfield, aka Potholer54. You have had an ongoing conversation with Anthony Watts and Lord Christopher Monckton. Can you tell us what the situation with that is?
Well, I'll give you a bit of background first because I had done a series of 5 videos on Christopher Monckton. It was started with a challenge from his supporters to say, bet you can't, cope with this,
Right.
and it wasn't my choice. It was them who came to me and they said, "I'll believe you when you can debunk Christopher Monckton." So I thought, okay, well, let's take a look. He'd done various speeches, which I watched, and I just kept noting down the various sources, and then I emailed him asking for the sources that he hadn't given in the speeches, which he gave me, and I just checked the sources. And I found error after error. I found he's misquoted them, misrepresented them, and I originally intended to do a video on him, and there were just so many errors and so many misquotes that eventually it turned into 5. It could have actually gone into 8 because I had so much material. I just gave up because I just had enough. So
Life
I
is
had to do all
short.
the
Yeah.
5. And he then, strangely enough, responded. Now, he could have responded on my channel. It's an open channel, but he decided to respond on WhatsApp with that, which, of course, is a medium he's more familiar with and more comfortable with. And he didn't actually respond to the videos. He didn't watch the videos. He responded to a summary of the videos that had been made by someone in the comments forum on WhatsApp with that. And I then contacted Anthony Watts and asked if I could have a rebuttal. Now, he sort of hedged a bit, but said yes, but first he wanted Monckton to have another go. I'm not sure why, but I said, okay, I'm fine with that. And this time Monckton actually had the opportunity to watch my videos and rebut them directly. But he chose instead to make some very vague allegations about what I had said, which turned out actually to be not very accurate. He didn't look at any of the detail or any of the facts, and it was mostly an ad hominem attack on me, and it was an attack on my integrity and my honesty. So I then asked Anthony Watts if I could have a rebuttal, and then there was a bit of toing and froing, but he was very decent about it, and I have to say all credit to him. He gave me 2,500 words to rebut, which I did, and then I came back with a lot of detail, a lot of sources, and then Christopher Monckton promised to respond, which I obviously expected him to do. And we waited and waited, and then finally there was no response, and I emailed Anthony to find out what had happened. Then I emailed Monckton, and Monckton came back to say, well, actually, I'm too busy to further respond. This, I think, is complete nonsense. He's certainly not too busy to be doing other responses to newsletters and classrooms of kids who really don't have the kind of audience pull that my channel does or that WhatsApp with that does. We're talking to hundreds of thousands of people here who are waiting for his response, and effectively he's just done a bump. He's decided to vacate the chair in the middle of a debate.
Well, why do you suppose that is? Why would he fail to respond like that?
I think when he started out, he thought this would have been it would have been a pushover, because the accusations or the allegations that were put on the WhatsApp with that comments forum were very vague. They didn't go into any kind of the detail that I had gone into in my videos. They didn't have any sources of reference or anything like that. And again, when he was trying to respond to the videos without really watching them properly, he was just responding to what he thought I was saying or what he half remembered that I was saying. But when I came back with lots of detail and lots of actual quotes and lots of references and video clips which quoted him saying what he denied saying, I think he realized that this was just getting a bit too hot for him. And the easiest thing is to remain silent and hope it'll go away. And since I pestered him for a response, the easiest thing ended to say, well, I'm just too busy.
So today you posted yet another video. It's an open letter to Lord Monckton, and you you basically called him out on just what you're describing here.
Yes, and I've also said that he doesn't like this kind of online debate, because I think this is one of the reasons why he's pulled out. He certainly wouldn't do that if it was a stage debate. And the reasons are very clear. He will love to debate on stage. He always tries to get people to debate him on stage, because a stage debate is basically a series of speeches. You can say whatever you like. You can pull facts out of a hat. You don't have to name your sources. No one can check what you're saying. An online debate is much more rigorous, because everything that Mr. Monckton puts in his response to me, he has to give a source for it, or I could ask him for a source and he has to provide it, and then I can check the source. And it's checking his sources and finding the discrepancy between what he says and what the source says that eventually just catches him out. So that's why he will always call people to debate on stage. It's interesting, he's been hounding Al Gore to debate him on stage. To be honest, I don't know why. Neither of them are scientists. I mean, I imagine that Al Gore and Christopher Monckton know about as much of climate change as the other does, but that's not really an awful lot, because they are not scientists. They're not engaged in research. So a debate like that on stage is really just an exercise in entertainment. What you really need to do to catch out people like this, to get these people who are spreading all this kind of disinformation, is to firstly ask, well, where does this information come from? And when they tell you, then you go and check that, and check the information against the claim that they're making. And 99 times out of 100, Christopher Monckton's representation of his sources is not accurate and not correct.
Well, this is the astounding thing to me, because I've made several videos about Lord Monckton, and you kind of like to assume. I always try to assume a good faith response, and when you start unraveling the threads of these various points and arguments that he makes, you one by one they evaporate. You find out that, oh my gosh, it wasn't that he made a mistake. I mean, if you read that paper, you know that is not correct. That is completely wrong. And
this is why I love science. This is why when I do my videos, they don't delve into opinion or areas of philosophy. It's purely about the science. It's purely, if someone says this is what a paper says, this is the conclusion of the paper, and you go to the paper and discover the conclusion is not the same, or when you hear a quote from Monckton which he gives to an audience, and then you look at the paper and discover that either he's left something out of the quote, or the quote is just entirely fictitious. This is black and white. This is not something that you can really debate. It's either there or it isn't. And I try very hard not to get into areas where it's a bit iffy, or where there are ways that you can argue, because I hate these arguments which go on ad infinitum. I did enough of that at 2 a.m. in college, when you're drunk and you're talking after a party, and this goes on, a conversation goes on to 4 o'clock in the morning, nothing ever gets resolved. In science, things do get resolved, and when we're dealing with areas of fact, it's very easy to show that he's wrong. Now, I must admit, I agree with you. I was very surprised at this. I thought, when people were telling me about this guy, Lord Monckton, who had this infallible argument against climate science, and when I watched him on stage, he was so convincing. And I began to think, wow, this guy is very good. And this is the first time I saw him, and all his supporters had told me, look, you won't be able to challenge this guy because he's absolutely unassailable. So I thought, okay, great. Well, but however good someone is, however passionate they are, even however passionate and good I might be as a speaker, means nothing if the facts that are given out are not correct. So never mind how good someone is, how convincing, or how well constructed their arguments are. Check the facts, check the sources that they're giving. And I actually had to wheedle out a lot of his sources. There was a lot of toing and froing by email, where it took me a while to get some of his sources. And I was astonished at how poor some of his sources were. There was one, for example, sorry to sort of go on at length, Peter, but I'll give you one example, which was such a great example, when he was talking about how the Himalayas have been steady for 200 years, ever since the days of the Raj. Now, this struck a chord with me, because I thought, now hang on, the days of the Raj were the days when we had a few civil servants out in India, but they weren't going up into the Himalayas and measuring scientifically how the glaciers were doing up there. So I began to doubt this straight away from the nature of the claim. And so when I checked and asked him for his source on that, he said, my source is Dr. I think it was N. Butt, or Dr. Butt. Sorry, something just popped up on here. Let me put that back. Anyway, I kept asking him about Dr. Butt's references. Who is Dr. Butt? And he said, well, Dr. Butt is the man responsible, so the guy responsible for monitoring Himalayan earthquakes. So he said, if you want to, know about Himalayan earthquakes, ask Dr. Butt. So indeed I did. I contacted Dr. Butt. And without telling him I'd been in contact with Christopher Monckton, I just put a straight question to him. I said, would you describe yourself as the man responsible for monitoring Himalayan earthquakes? And I got a very resounding answer, no. He doesn't consider himself to be that at all. He's actually an expert in tectonics. Now, if Monckton's entire case about Himalayan earthquakes is not, Himalayan glaciers is not on the basis of scientific papers and studies, and various studies have been done showing retreat of glaciers. If it's all based on the word of someone he claims to be the man responsible for monitoring them, but is not, then obviously his sources are in doubt. And I found this time and time again, if he's not either misquoting or misrepresenting his sources, then his sources are people who are not experts in their field and do not have the expertise that he claims for them.
Well, Peter Hadfield, this is a fascinating exercise, and you have put this challenge out to Lord Monckton. I have blogged on it at climatecrocks.com. I will continue to follow this story, and I hope that we can keep up with some communication and keep people informed, because this has become kind of a spectator event now.
Yes, and I hope people don't lose track of the fact that this isn't supposed to be entertainment. It's not my intention to embarrass Mr. Monckton or try to make him some kind of a whipping boy. I simply want what we had on What's Up With That, which was very kindly hosted by Anthony Watts, which was an exchange about his sources and about whether they're correct or not. It's a simple black and white issue. Either he misquoted them or he didn't. If he did misquote them, fine. I'm not suggesting he's being dishonest. I've never ever suggested that he's got any kind of motivation. I can't read his mind. All I can say is he made mistakes. Now, either he has to accept that he made mistakes and he has to tell people that, because he's certainly misled audiences over the years with these errors, or he has to somehow defend himself, and he's not prepared to defend himself. So my final word on this, Peter, would be an address to Lord Monckton himself, and I am looking into the camera, aren't I, on this one?
Yes, you are.
Good. Well, here it is. Mr. Monckton, I respectfully request you return to the debate. You don't run from it. You don't run from the questions. If you have a case and you think you can defend yourself, come back to the debate, which is being hosted on What's Up With That, which is a channel that you enjoy, that you have a regular comment on and is certainly sympathetic to you. Come back and let's continue the debate in a civilized manner without any name calling, and I will be happy to do that and respond to you in kind. So I look forward to meeting you there.
Excellent, excellent, and I hope to follow up on this. This is the first time you and I have ever communicated other than email. So
it is, yes.
Yeah, I'm just delighted, and this is going to be fun. And I know it's not entertainment, but I'm going to make popcorn and enjoy myself. Okay.
Good on you, Peter. Thank you very much indeed.
Very good.